Did the Los Angeles Dodgers break baseball this offseason? This guy definitely thinks so. We have more on what the Dodgers did and what the Diamondbacks still have to do on today's episode of this show. Don't you go anywhere. We will be live in 30 seconds. Let's go. Welcome into another edition of the PHNX D-Backs podcast right here on PHNX. My name is Derek Montia, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. I'm thrilled to be joined by this man, a ball of emotions at times, but also a ball knower, ball of emotions, the one and only Damon Dog. And of course, great to see you guys here. Elizabeth in the chat, Ryan, Rugnar, Groundhog Mama. So many of you guys, thank you guys for stopping by today. Of course, we have a lot to discuss. Doing this show once a week does change things substantially.
It does.
Even when the D-backs don't really do anything, we have so much to talk about.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Derek, because, obviously me and you have been on the grind of this podcast for a minute. And we've gone through an off season or two, and baseball off season is tough, man.
It is.
It's tough to find something to talk about every day because, as we had talked about in the past, like it's such a slow burner, right?
Yeah.
And you sit there and you're like, when are we going to make a move?
Yeah.
And then just it flies off the board at you. It's not always something super noteworthy to talk about, but when you do it once a week, there typically is.
Well, and of course, the Diamondbacks shocked the baseball world with their signing of Corbin Burnes. And, of course, there is a lot of storylines in regards to that, and also in regards to them not being done in free agency or this offseason. So we'll get to that here shortly. But the big story is obviously that the Dodgers have broken baseball. They've broken baseball because I don't care what you have to say. I don't know who to blame it on. I don't necessarily feel like I blame the Dodgers, right? Like I don't blame a small child for running around a store and causing chaos, grabbing candy and toys and throwing them in a cart. I blame the mother for not teaching their child right from wrong. And in this case, I have to blame MLB, I think, for what they're letting the Dodgers do. And I don't know how they can stop them, but something needs to be done. The Dodgers signed Japanese phenom Roki Sasaki, as all of you know. The signing actually becomes official today. And the rich get richer in 2025. That seems to be the theme already, both in sports and in everything else.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Derek. And like, as much as both of us despise the Dodgers, me especially, it's like the one thing I stand for in life.
He really does.
I do agree with you that it's like, how could you be mad at the Dodgers for trying to better their team?
Right.
Roki Sasaki took, a contract that, based off of what we think we know about him, is going to be a really good value deal for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He clearly wanted to be in Los Angeles. I'm of the opinion that this was settled for a long time, and that all of the posturing of like, well, maybe going to a small market team might be better for Roki.
Yeah.
That was never going to happen. Yeah. It was set in stone. He was going to be a Dodger since the moment they decided he was going to get posted in the Japanese league. And
it's the least surprising news that he actually signed with the Dodgers, right?
But at the same time, the Dodgers are doing what any sane, competent organization would do, and that's they're trying to better their franchise in a way that is financially stable for them. The problem is that baseball continues to allow them to just get richer and richer and richer at every turn, and does nothing to stop what the financial burdens that other teams have that they can't match what the Dodgers are doing.
It's the inequity, right?
Yeah,
it's the inequity between those that have and the have-nots. And I mean, again, that's kind of a metaphor for more things in 2025 than just baseball. But I will say this, the Dodgers, this is one of those situations where the Dodgers didn't even have the most amount of money to sign him. And that's something that you could say in other occasions. We'll talk about them not being done and also going after Tanner Scott and possibly adding Kirby Yates. I mean, the Dodgers are relentless at this point, but it's wild considering that they were in the pool with the least amount of money for an international signee that they still are able to pull it off. At the end of the day, it's still just a very desirable location for someone like Sasaki. Not only does he have former teammates from his Japan team, they're playing there, legends, literally legends in the game right now. But it's also Los Angeles, and it's also one of those situations where you had even Tyler Glasnow pitching to him or having a meeting with him and discussing with him how much the Dodgers have done for him as a pitcher and how they will help him develop in Major League Baseball. That's a very enticing offer, and that's one of those things when you start meeting with those players, you start meeting with that team, like you said, it's hard to fault the situation other than saying, like, when does Major League Baseball do something about it besides just penalizing a team financially? That's what they're doing now, and it doesn't seem to be working. The Dodgers are going to continue to make more money right now at this point, and it's not going to stop. It's going to be a global dominance right now with the way that they are just going to become, further become one of the most popular teams in baseball and further become one of the biggest contenders for the World Series in 2025. But it's like, where does that stop? The difference between the Dodgers and the next team as far as spending goes is the Philadelphia Phillies right now, believe it or not. And that gap is bigger than the payroll for, I believe, 5 or 6 Major League Baseball teams at this point.
Wow.
Right. So, I mean, there's a point where you just, again, this is all still, you still have to see all this come together. Nothing is guaranteed in baseball. And that's the craziest thing about all of this. The Dodgers can add all of the free agents they want, and at the end of the day, you just never know what's going to happen over the course of a 162 game baseball season and then into the playoffs, which is a whole new animal.
I actually I think in the playoffs, baseball obviously kind of counteracts the super team with just how random any given series can be.
Sure,
the White
absolutely.
Sox could beat the Dodgers in a series this year. It wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world. I mean, it certainly would be surprising, but it could happen, right? But the problem is that the Dodgers have all but locked up like the National League 1 seed. And it's pitchers and catchers haven't reported, Derek.
That's you're not wrong. I have them already penciled in as the number 1 seed.
They were the 1 seed last year, right? They beat out the Phillies at the end of the season, I believe. The Phillies kind of faltered down the stretch, and they had maybe the worst rotation of the Diamondbacks of potential playoff teams. But other than the Diamondbacks, they probably had the worst potential starting rotation of playoff teams or teams that could have been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like they had injuries up and down to their staff, and it didn't matter because the upside of their star players is so high that a Shohei Ohtani, even with not pitching, can carry that team to.
It's crazy.
And that's what a $700 million player gets you.
Well, and also what a team like this gets you is the fact that when you did reach the World Series, right, Ohtani was not a big factor. He got hurt. There were other things. And then you have Freddie Freeman step up and become a baseball god in that moment. And that's what this team is becoming. This team is so deep. They're becoming so well-rounded at every position that it's hard to not already write them in, like he said, as the number 1 seed. But I think the Sasaki signing, again, is not a surprise. It doesn't upset me because it was more of the theatrics of going through and meeting with these teams and
that's what bothers me.
Giving the poor Toronto Blue Jays so much hope, at least giving us hope that he wasn't going to sign in the NL West. But what really grinds my gears, I want to say other words, but I don't remember what words I can and can't say on the show. What really grinds my gears is the Dodgers signing Tanner Scott to a reported 4-year, $72 million contract on Sunday. That's insane, Damon. He is a relief pitcher, one of the best on the market. I won't say that, but projections for Tanner Scott, the Fangraphs crowdsourced projections were 3 years, $36 million, $12 million a year. The Dodgers paid him $72 million for 4 years with a $21 million deferral.
Yep.
The $21 million is basically the difference there between what any other Major League Baseball team would have paid him and what he got from the Dodgers, right? Like $51 million over the course of 4 years is right in the wheelhouse of what people projected, but it's that extra amount that other teams are not willing to pay even a top reliever like Scott to get him. And again, the Dodgers just have that money to do so. Not to mention the fact that in deferring $21 million, you would never see my face ever again if I received $21 million. And that's just the deferred portion of this contract. He's getting another $51 million, and that's totally livable. I know it's the city of Los Angeles. It's expensive, but I'm sure he'll be fine with $51 million over the course of 4 years. It's just, again, he's a great pitcher. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He had a 1.75 ERA and 84 strikeouts in 72 innings last year between the Padres and the Marlins. It's just the fact that other teams can't keep up with this. You know what I mean? And it's making baseball a game that people again are going to grow frustrated with. Who knows? The Dodgers just won World Series. That's the weird part about this, is that you gotta understand that they're going to try to become like a dominant franchise that wins multiple World Series, and that's what they're aiming at. And baseball is such a hard game for you to be one of those teams that wins year after year, right? But they are doing their best to try to like seal it up now. And again, it's not just Tanner Scott. The fact that the Diamondbacks were very much in on a Kirby Yates, who now appears to be signing with the Dodgers, helps make their bullpen even better. He was ranked second among all free agent relievers in strikeouts last year. And yes, I know some people are probably glad that the Diamondbacks are not signing Kirby Yates. He will be 38 next season. But still, it's the fact that one of the top relievers, once again, doesn't disperse somewhere amongst baseball. He goes to the Dodgers and helps make that team even, better. And it's just a frustrating thing.
It's insane. I'm just looking at their bullpen right now. What do they even need a Kirby Yates for?
What do they need a Kirby Yates for?
They have Tanner Scott. They have, Blake Treinen, who was incredible for them down the stretch last year. I like Gratterall quite a bit as a pitcher. I don't know, they can't really trust him to stay healthy, but it's like you guys have top level bullpen arms. You're spending way more money than everybody else on your lineup and your staff, and then you're on top of that, you're like, man, give us every good reliever on the market.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable, Derek. And I want to kill a couple fallacies here because like I've seen a lot of comments, and obviously I had my tweet that blew up, and Dodgers fans, want my head on a stick and whatnot. But
yeah, they're coming for it.
They already hated me, but I think that this just kind of hammered that point home a little bit more. People, like a lot of Dodgers fans, their points are like, well, deferred money should help the small market teams just as much as it helps the Dodgers because you don't have to pay it right away. Yeah, but when Ken Kendrick has a net worth of $1.1 billion and the Dodgers have deferred $1.03 billion, what makes you think Ken Kendrick has the facilities to be able to afford that? That is, you have to be that's not liquidity. The net worth is not liquidity. He can't just put that on the back burner because he doesn't have it, Derek. Well, there's a lot of teams that don't have that much money.
Right.
And you're looking at it now. I'm seeing a little bit of conflicting figures here, but I've seen anywhere from 6 to 7 teams franchise value is less than what the Dodgers have on deferral money in total. Like it's just, the whole thing is messed up. The whole system is broken. And I think it's Dodgers fans. Like I'm totally cool with them celebrating this. I think anyone sane that loves their team would. Yeah. This is incredible.
You're not going to convince them what they're doing is wrong.
You're gearing up for a second year of potentially a back-to-back World Series. At the same time, can we just admit that it's messed up and it's broken? That's all I want out of Dodgers fans. Just hand up, yeah, the system sucks. Cool. Now can we can move on after that. Yeah. But can we stop pretending like it's on all the other owners to do the exact same thing the Dodgers are doing? They can't.
And here's the thing is that the one thing I will commend the Dodgers on is their business acumen and the way that they are able to figure this stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Like there was a loophole. They found a way to exploit the loophole and find future money,
certainly,
really, that they're going to pay towards these players, right? They obviously have some sort of business plan where they, the deferrals are money that they are investing in some account or in some way that is reportedly making them money, right? So again, you're right in the aspect that all other owners could do what the Dodgers are doing, but they just aren't, and they don't know maybe how to figure that out in the way that the Dodgers front office and ownership group does. That's the difference right now.
Look at this chat right now. Look at the Dodgers fans in this chat right now. I mean, this is exactly what I'm talking about, Derek. Wait, Corbin Burnes deferred $60 million. What are you talking about? Yeah, dude, that's exactly the same as Shohei Ohtani deferring $680 million.
Right.
Are you kidding me?
Right.
That's one player, and the totality of Kendrick's deferred contracts is less than $100 million.
Right.
I'm not saying no team can defer money. Absolutely, they can.
Yeah.
No team can defer $1 billion except for the Los Angeles Dodgers and maybe the New York Mets, given Steve Cohen's deep pockets.
His deep pockets, absolutely. And I mean, again, we've seen that list of how much the ownership groups reinvest versus what they make back. There is no team that isn't making something off of, or ownership group that isn't making something off of the team, right? But the Diamondbacks were up there in the top 3 as far as reinvesting what they make off of the
above
team.
the Dodgers, by the way.
Above the Dodgers. Well, it's because the Dodgers make an ungodly amount of money overall.
And another Dodgers fan put that in
difference.
there. The television contract for the Dodgers is way bigger than almost anybody else's in baseball.
Right.
And
was it $33 million a year or something like that?
I think he said $334 million total. I'm pretty sure he put in there.
Okay.
Like, is that not an inherent advantage? The fact that you get to reinvest that into your baseball team and the rest of the teams do not have the ability to do that. There is a reason that the NFL is is the most popular sport in the America, not the world, but America. And it's because teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Detroit Lions can be the best teams in the league despite being in the smallest markets.
Right.
Those are all of the least valuable franchises in the sport. And yet if you draft right and you do well in free agency, everyone's playing on an equal playing field, and it's just about like who builds the best team. The Dodgers, like if you put me and you in charge of the Dodgers, Derek, we could win the World Series in charge of the Dodgers. It's not rocket science.
I'll say this: the Dodgers are in a position again to obviously be a dominant team in baseball, but they did all of this as a reminder just to beat the power of friendship, right? Just to be the little team from Arizona that whooped their asses pretty good in the playoffs, right? But the thing about it with what somebody said, I don't think the Diamondbacks are in a position to be one of the teams right now complaining about it. I feel like the Diamondbacks are just used to this and are keeping up as best they can with the Dodgers, and that's what the Corbin Burnes signing does, right? And the Diamondbacks, according to Ken Kendrick, aren't done this offseason. We're going to have more on that here shortly. But again, it really just gets to the point where, again, there's things that need to change about baseball, and it's not necessarily just a salary cap. A salary floor is a big part of that too. There's no reason why some of these teams, like I said, the bottom 5 teams in spending should be only spending the gap between the Dodgers and the Phillies versus any, versus what they could be spending.
That's the other side of it. Like, no one is sitting here saying that baseball doesn't have a problem with the bottom 10 teams as well.
Yeah.
It's totally like we need to condense that into the middle so that there's now a subsection where, you know what I mean? Like it's not about just the top, it's about the bottom as well, but it needs to be evened out. These Dodgers fans are awesome. Look at these guys.
Yeah, well, I mean,
this is exactly what I'm saying.
Why are you so angry? Your team won a World Series.
Celebrate.
Chill, bro.
Be happy. You got Roki Sasaki. You're signing every single big free agent on the market. Also, put your hand up and say, yeah, this isn't a fair system. That's all I'm asking for is a little bit of honesty, Derek. Just a tiny bit of honesty.
Again, because it comes back to the Dodgers make more money than every team. And it's like, yeah, so do other franchises and other sports. They make substantially more. And the reason why those sports...
You think the Dallas Cowboys don't bring in more money than everybody else combined?
Right. However, I will say that the bigger problem with baseball is just paying the lower end players. Really, that's the biggest problem with baseball. And I say that because baseball allows this crazy spending and guys getting as much money as possible because you go through such a period of time of not getting anything as a baseball player. You go through your minor leagues, you go through your first, your AAA experience, you go through even being called up in your first 6 years of playing for a team. You get nothing. You get next to nothing. You get, no matter how good you are, all you can do is go to arbitration and argue on your behalf that you're worth more than they're paying you. That's literally it for that first period of time. So baseball players themselves know that, and that's the big reason why they will always fight on behalf of not putting a salary cap on. The MLB PA will never allow a salary cap on baseball because they don't want owners to stop spending. They would prefer if more teams did what the Dodgers did. They would prefer if, when we saw that list about how much they're receiving in profits versus how much they're spending on the team, if there was a negative there where they were spending more money than they were earning from the team on the team. That's not a good business practice. That's not what people own franchises for. It is, at the end of the day, to make money off of it. I do believe that graphic, though, backed up Ken Kendrick in the aspect that Kendrick says time and time again that they do their best to reinvest every, penny that they receive back into the team. And I think, reinvesting over 80% of what you generate in revenue back into the team is that is a lot of money that you are reinvesting back into this team, especially for a team here in Arizona that doesn't make nearly as much as some of these other baseball teams.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, again, you can hypothesize how to fix it all you want, and no matter what in baseball, you're going to come down some road where you get to either the owners or the MLBPA, and there will be no even discussion of something like a salary cap or a salary floor on both ends, and that's why baseball just won't progress. I will say, at least, we don't have those years of dominance from a team like the Dodgers just yet.
Yeah, I mean, and like we talked about, the playoffs nullifies the ability to just buy a championship, right? It's if they allowed this in basketball, for example, the same team would win every single year,
right?
But obviously it's about getting into the playoffs, and the Diamondbacks can still get into the playoffs. But the problem is that when one of the best avenues to make the playoffs is pretty much off the table before the season is even remotely close to starting. That is concerning for Diamondbacks fans, and it's disheartening in total.
Yeah.
I'm just dying at these comments, man. I mean, what, like, people telling me life isn't fair. Every other sport in this country is on an equal playing field. Well, this is the one.
It's parity. It's like you said, one of the reasons why it's fun to watch the NFL, season and the playoffs is because anything can happen, right?
Yes.
But when we do eventually, come to the Super Bowl of the Kansas City Chiefs versus the Philadelphia Eagles, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to roll their eyes and not really be interested in that game, because once again, people love it when it's different teams. People like that's one thing that's very good for sport, right? So I don't know. I mean, at this point, again, there's lots of ways you could suggest fixing it, and then you would get to some sort of point where no one is even going to allow you to suggest that. So, at least the Diamondbacks, again, aren't one of those teams that are spending and are at the bottom as far as spending goes. And again, we have more on Ken Kendrick's comments about this team not being done this offseason on the other side of this break, as well as some more free agent news and the NL West's grades from ESPN for their mid-offseason acquisitions. Diamondbacks scored very highly. All of this on the other side of the break. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Of course, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. I know this guy, it's never ordinary when he's betting on Bet365.
The Dodgers are plus 300 to win the World Series on Bet365.
Plus 300.
It's January.
It's January, but hey, you can get down on that. You can also get down on an early payout offer with the NBA and college basketball. With Bet365's early payout offer, you're a winner if your team goes up by 20 points with an instant payout on straight bets and parlay selections marked as winners. And we've seen the Suns blow plenty of 20-point leads to know that at least you're going to get paid out after your team disappoints you. Download the app and use code PHNX365 when you sign up. Breaking news right now from Bet365. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you bet $5. Sign up. Use that code of PHNX365, deposit $10, place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or over and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. Well, if you are in the market right now to buy a home, which so many people should be at this point, the Carol Royce Real Estate Team is here to help you. They are family owned and locally operated with 3 generations of family members serving the Valley of the Sun. And let's be honest, sometimes it's not easy to navigate the waters of purchasing a home. So having Carol and her team with you and their unbeatable track record helps to make that process easier. They've sold over 12,000 homes across the valley. Carol knows the Arizona real estate market. If you're looking to buy your dream home, you've probably been looking on Zillow or websites like Realtor.com. And you might not know this, but Carol Royce has access to thousands of off-market homes that you won't find online. So make sure to contact Carol if you're considering buying a home in 2025. The name to trust is Carol Royce, your home sold guaranteed realty. Move up to one of our listings and we'll buy your home for cash. Have questions, call today or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That's carolroyceteam.com. Well, it's good to see that no one in the chat is whining at all about anything.
No, and Dodgers fans are very reasonable people. I'm glad that we
Very
can sit
level-headed.
down and we can have a reasonable conversation about how things are going.
I do appreciate you guys being here.
Sure.
Your takes might be a little misguided at this point, but maybe so are ours. Who knows? But I will
Rob
say,
Manfred, I'll tell you what, Rob Manfred is he's head over heels for what's going on in baseball right now. I mean, like I think if you cut the guy open, Dodger blue would bleed out of his veins.
You might be right about that. But one person that won't be bleeding Sedona red anymore is one Paul Sewald. According to reports today, he signs with the Cleveland Guardians. So Paul Sewald can't hurt us anymore. In other news, Justin Verlander signs with the San Francisco Giants, which really, I mean, this happened kind of prior to our last show, but we didn't get a chance to talk about it. This is kind of like a consolation prize for the Giants in a way, because according to reports, they were all in on Corbin Burnes, and the Diamondbacks kind of swooping in very stealthily and getting Burnes kind of left the Giants with limited options. And it seems like their big splash for a starting pitcher is Verlander. I'm not saying Verlander still doesn't have anything to offer. I just don't know if this really moves the needle for the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm looking at Justin Verlander's stats last year. 5.48 ERA, 5 wins, 6 losses, only 90 innings pitched, but he's getting up there in age now. I mean, he's 41 years old. He's about to be 42 before the start of this season, Derek. And I guess this doesn't really move me as a Diamondbacks fan. I'm not sitting there like, oh, the Giants just got a lot better. They do have a good pitching staff and clearly a good organization when it comes to cultivating good seasons out of their starting pitchers.
Yeah, for sure.
So I could see a bit of a resurgence here, making him a good back end starter, but I don't necessarily look at Justin Verlander and think to myself like, oh man, like the Diamondbacks are going to be up against it. I think the Diamondbacks are basically competing with the Padres for one of those wild card spots, if not all three of them, you know what I mean? And that's kind of where I see the competition in the NL West.
Absolutely. And I think really at the end of the day, when you talk about what the moves were made in the NL West, we have the offseason grades. These are the mid offseason grades for the NL West from ESPN. And the Diamondbacks did pretty well here. As you can see, the Giants got a C+. The Padres got an F.
Yikes.
Totally understandable with what they did or didn't do. Rockies D-. And then you got the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks. Obviously, you could give 6+ signs behind the Dodgers offseason, and you wouldn't be wrong about that. Do you think an A is a little bit of a, I don't know. I mean, it's great. I'm happy. Josh Naylor and Corbin Burnes are solid additions to the Diamondbacks. They did a good job. But obviously they're not done yet, right? And they have more to add. They have literally more positions to fill. We know that they still want a reliever, maybe a high leverage back end closer, as well as, a DH, right? But an A seems strong considering that this team doesn't really feel complete yet. I guess it's more of the shock of being the team that landed the biggest free agent pitcher on the market.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, I guess I didn't think A jumped out at me. Maybe A-, B+. Is more like
that's
it.
What I was
but
thinking.
I guess like when you look at this team and what they struggled with last year, you would look at the ERA of the team, right, and see that they were only above, I believe, the White Sox, Rockies, and Marlins in terms of team ERA in all of baseball. Obviously, pitching was a massive problem. You get the best pitcher on the entire market. That alone, check. And then you look at, where the Diamondbacks' biggest hole in their lineup was, first base. And you were missing, because Christian Walker was a free agent. How are you going to replace him? Were you just going to hope Pavin Smith, over the course of an entire season puts up the same stats that he did? That would be pretty risky. So getting Josh Naylor, I think, is a good move in that regard as well. You brought in that home run production that you were missing with Christian Walker, and you get a guy who hits from the other side of the plate with a little bit of power there to replace like a Jock Peterson, for example. So well, they still need a DH, they still need relief pitching help. I think the two biggest things on paper solved off the bat. So I in big moves like 2 All-Stars last year. I'm super happy with the Diamondbacks offseason thus far. Obviously not complete, but I'm not mad in A.
The truth of the matter is the Diamondbacks could have the best starting rotation in baseball. Will they? That remains to be seen. I'm not going to act like I'm confident in that, like you said, after we saw what we saw last season, right? They should have been much better. They should not have been in the bottom 5 for team ERA in across Major League Baseball, right? With the idea here is that if Jordan Montgomery does not get moved, that he has a big, bounce back season, and then you can hopefully get a solid, healthy season out of guys like Merrill Kelly, Zach Gallen, Eduardo Rodriguez. Like overall, this team with Corbin Burnes and Zach Gallen leading the way could very much be the best rotation in baseball, right?
Yeah.
But I will say that's still a big if, right? Like there's a lot of things that have to go their way. And again, the Dodgers are still trying to make their rotation and their bullpen the best in baseball. So it's a battle between these two teams. And again, as a Diamondbacks podcast, we're by no means saying that the Diamondbacks aren't trying to do their best to keep up with the NL West. And there is the fact that, yes, they did what they did in 2023, right? So no matter what happens over the course of a baseball season, there still is a very unpredictable, playoffs that occurs after that you can't really, especially with the randomness of having 3 wildcard teams and the 3 division winners, you just don't know what's going to happen. So, it's just fun that the Diamondbacks aren't one of these other teams that are kind of left out as far as not having made moves this offseason to improve their team, right? You have a team like the Blue Jays who finally land their big free agent and Anthony Santander, right? And again, they also added reliever Jeff Hoffman. I wouldn't consider the Blue Jays offseason to be a failure. I think the problem with that is that compared to the Diamondbacks, the Blue Jays made it very well known that they were in on so many free agents.
They do,
and that
they
had
every
a
year.
lot of money to spend, and that they were going to go crazy, right? And then instead, they really, again, they still get some good players, but they miss out on the Sasakis, the starting pitchers, the Blake Snells, the Corbin Burnes, and ultimately have to kind of settle compared to what, I guess, how they were talking about adding to this team. Solid disappointment, or solid additions, but still just a little disappointing. Meanwhile, Alex Bregman and Pete Alonso still free agents.
Yeah. Baseball offseason moves slowly, man. There's going to be guys like that are free agents into spring training.
Yeah.
It happens every year. So, we saw Jordan Montgomery last year, and it kind of derailed his season, I would argue. So, yeah, it's definitely something to monitor there, and keeps it where it's like there's always suspense in baseball offseason, but it also makes it where it's kind of boring at times, where it's like, man, I wish it was like NBA where people are just flying off the board the second that the legal tampering period begins.
Yeah.
But Derek, I want to go back to these grades for a second. I'm going to go ahead and give my personal grades.
Let's go.
So
let's throw that up there. Can you get that up there, Kev? By the way, I have not acknowledged producer Kevin Thomas.
Yeah, nice graphic, Kevin.
That's beautiful. Well done.
We're going. I'll drop the Diamondbacks to A-.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep the Giants at C+. I think that's fair. We'll go Padres F. Yeah. Rockies. Man, I just feel bad for them. Maybe toss them a C just because you feel a little bit bad for them.
No, we're not. No, we're you give it grading on a curve just because.
Oh no, this is all graded on a curve. No, I am a professor of curves. And as we talked about, level playing field. Dodgers get a C for me. I'm going C on the Dodgers. Yeah. I'm sorry. I just, I'm grading on a curve here. I gave you half the test answers beforehand, and you did a good job on the test. But if I gave you half the answers, I'd expect you to do well.
I don't think we could talk for 34 solid minutes about how unfair baseball is based on the additions they made.
Oh, I could go all day long, brother.
But hey, I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate you leading with your heart there. But Diamondbacks, again, they're not done, according to Ken Kendrick. Uncle Ken, who my phone, by the way, made an adorable memories video
beautiful,
this week.
Man. That was emotional.
I'm at Chase Field way too much. But he did say this during the Corbin Burnes press conference the other day in regards to the Diamondbacks DH situation. He said, you can look at our team and say, well, last year we had a great DH combo, and right now we don't. He went on to say, well, would you like to figure out how to do that? You would. Can you add a really talented guy to your bullpen? Well, you can always add one if you can find them, and we may do that. Again, it's work is needed to be done. I don't know if they'll be able to find these additions through free agency necessarily, especially considering what they spent already. However, I do think that they can definitely go out maybe with some of the assets they have, like we've been talking about, and trade. I don't want to see him trade away 2 starting pitchers. And you know which one I'd want to see.
Which one we
trade
all
away.
want to see?
Can I interest you in one slightly refurbished Jordan Montgomery? However, again, I do like what I've heard in regards to depth. And it's something Corbin Burnes brought up, is you're never going to get through a baseball season with 5 starting pitchers. You're just not.
No.
It's the way every baseball season goes. So I do feel like, again, having the depth that the Diamondbacks have and maybe potentially keeping all of these guys isn't the worst idea. It just very much feels like, we're going to see a move either with a starting pitcher or with one of their outfielders that can help bring in either a back end reliever or, again, a DH. I feel right now like the back end relievers on the free agent market are getting fewer and far between at this point.
Yeah, I love how Ken Kendrick just talks in general. I think it's so funny, like the way in which he speaks. He asks a lot of questions.
He does,
doesn't he? Like the way.
Yeah. He'll say like,
he tries to get you to the place.
Can we do it?
Yeah.
Sure. Are we going to? Will we?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's how he talks every time he talks to the media about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like he starts leading you into the direction where he wants to go by asking questions that get you to that spot.
I mean,
and
when
I think it's so funny.
When he said Shohei Ohtani wasn't the next coming of
Is he the next coming?
Jesus Christ.
Well, I would suggest not.
I mean, that's a bold take. No,
it's one of the best quotes of all time.
He's one of 9 last time I checked, I believe is what he said. Well, look at those stats again from last year.
He literally compared him to the Messiah. That was a genuine thing that he brought up.
He did.
I love it.
He did. Well, we know that the Dodgers are going to be full of potential future Hall of Famers, but we are going to talk about the guys that got the call this year. We're also going to talk about, I have no idea who we're going to vote in next year because that ballot, not great. We're talking about all that on the other side of this break. It's the PHNX Diamondback Show. Of course, check out Pure Edibles. You know me, I'm a huge fan. They were founded right here in Arizona, and they're available in over 130 dispensaries statewide. Pure gummies are not covered in sugar like all of these other competitors, right? Which is, it's not a bad thing, but sometimes you just want to get yourself something that actually offers a little bit of a more authentic product. And Pure is a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, kicks, chews, and hard candies. Pure effects are clearly listed on each tin, so you know exactly what to expect. They have some amazing sleep edition gummies that will help you get the best night's sleep you ever had. Pure gummies are designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable or easy to dial in your exact dose, which again, some people just want a little bit. Pure can help you out with that. Go find yourself some Pure edible products from one of the over 130 dispensaries right here in Arizona. Also, I know that there's easily way more than 130 Circle Ks around the valley. It's probably more like 1 million, but
insane.
There's definitely one near you. There's probably 3 near you, and it is America's thirst stop. So stop being thirsty, even though it's so cold outside. Get yourself something to drink. They have of course, their Inner Circle membership program, which we've been talking about for a very long time. This guy, probably the founder of the Inner Circle membership program.
I love it so much.
He does. He spends a lot of time at Circle K. You can join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. But when you do, you'll save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. You'll save 3 cents off per gallon every day after that. And you also get your first 5 Polar Pops for free. So if you're heading there right now to get a Polar Pop, go ahead, jump in on the Inner Circle membership program for free. Save yourself some money. So do so right now. Again,
what, do you hate money?
Do you hate saving money? Again, in the app, you get buy 5, get a 6th one free on a selection of products and all sorts of just free coupons, freebies. Circle K is great about that. So stop by America's Thirst Stop and get yourself something to drink right now. Well, there were 3 former baseball players, 3 legends of the game. Well, maybe 1 legend of the game and 2 other guys that got in because the ballots were kind of weak. But regardless, 3 legends of the game that got elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And of course, it's always a fun time to kind of discuss these players and dissect it. That's next year's ballot. But this year we have this is something we don't really want to talk about.
We'll get into that in a second.
We'll get into that for sure. But Ichiro Suzuki got the call into the Hall. A nearly unanimous vote for his first time on the ballot. 1 person did not vote for him, and we're going to find you. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making any threats. We're going to name names eventually. Someone's going to find you.
You should have seen Shane Diefenbach when we brought that up. I mean, he was ready to take lives.
It's like
Not happy.
I know that there are a lot of players that are divisive. I
The
know
guy who
there's a
didn't vote
lot
for
of
Ichiro.
yeah. We're talking. Oh yeah, he's steaming. Yeah, he's not happy. But again, there are players that are slam dunk in baseball when it comes to voting them into the Hall of Fame, and Ichiro is absolutely that. He's one of just 33 players with over 3,000 hits in the game. His career slash line is crazy. His career slash line, he hit 311, 355, 402 for a 757 OPS. He had 3,089 hits and 509 stolen bases. It's insane how good Ichiro was at the game. It's also insane that one person would choose not to vote for him.
Yeah, it is. I mentioned it to you off air, Derek. Ichiro probably, if he started his career in the United States and didn't have a rookie season at 27,
Yeah.
probably a top 10 player of all time.
Yeah, absolutely. That he did get a late start.
And still in the conversation for that because he was just absolutely incredible. I mean, winning MVP in your first season is out of this world. I always think about in that 01 year, I believe that was the year after the Rangers, or the Mariners, I should say, lost A-Rod. Am I correct in saying that? Yes, they got Ichiro the year after they had Alex Rodriguez. I always think to myself, man, imagine if they could have had that duo with Ken Griffey as well, who was also on the team right prior to that. I mean, you could have had, the three best players in baseball all on your team potentially at one point.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The Mariners they're not devoid of absolute superstar talent.
No,
that's
not
for
at
sure.
all.
They're just devoid of late season runs.
Yeah.
You got to feel for them.
That's fair.
But yeah, fair. Ichiro, incredible, very deserved. And one of the most fun players to watch in the history of the game.
He also has an incredible story that he told about the time that Tom Brady texted him. And he was apparently Tom Brady got his phone number from Alex Rodriguez, and he wanted to talk to him about his workout routine. And Ichiro's reply to one of the coaches from the Seattle Mariners when he got the text message was, "Who the F is Tom Brady?"
I remember that. That was electric.
It's amazing. That's amazing.
It wasn't like Michael Jordan wanted to meet him too, I believe, back in the day. Like the dude was he was that big of a superstar that it was like
you had the other legends in the game of sports in general wanting to meet him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also voted in is CC Sabathia, career 251 win pitcher with a 3.74 ERA and a 61.8 WAR in his career.
That's
Cy
crazy.
Young winner. Sabathia totally deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. It's just, I think I'm surprised, and again, this is the stupid part about the Hall of Fame to me, is when did you get in? At what point in your, was it your second time in? Are you a first ballot Hall of Famer? I know that matters, but I mean, that's kind of what's going on here with Sabathia, is that a lot of people are surprised to see him voted in. And they definitely feel like the field of candidates was a factor as to why he got in on his first time.
Yeah. I think CC Sabathia is a guy that, I think he might be kind of the barometer for pitchers in modern pitchers and how if they're gonna make the Hall of Fame or not.
Yeah.
The Baseball Hall of Fame is the hardest Hall of Fame to make. I think that's an established fact.
It is. But then some years people do get in based on the strength of the ballot.
Yeah. No, there's no question about that. And we'll talk about that in a second here. But I just think CC Sabathia, maybe he was on that cusp, but definitely a Hall of Famer in my eyes. I mean, one of the best pitchers throughout my entire childhood, and a guy that I think people will look at and say oh, this guy compared to CC, how did they match up? Oh, he's not a Hall of Famer. Oh, yes, he is. So happy to get CC Sabathia in, because he was one of my favorite pitchers growing up, and then a closer as well, Derek. Got a closer in, Billy Wagner.
Billy Wagner, one of the most dominant closers of all time, often overshadowed by a little Mariano Rivera, but still career numbers very good. 2.31 career ERA, 422 saves, career WAR of 27.7. This was his last year on the ballot, so it was his last year to be voted in. But on his first year in the ballot, it was 2016, included 11 players who are now in the Hall of Fame. Plus Roger Clemens, Kurt Schilling, Barry Bonds, Jeff Kent, and Gary Sheffield. So he kind of, again, he's been fighting an uphill battle against some pretty stacked ballots up until this year. And congrats to Billy Wagner on making it in his final year of eligibility.
Starting to see a little bit more closers get those nods, I feel like, as baseball continues to go further and further into its history. I feel like, 20 years ago, there was probably what, 2 closers in the Baseball Hall of Fame or something, and now you got Trevor Hoffman and Mariano Rivera and Billy Wagner, and it just continues to grow.
Yeah, well, and I will say this in regards to, obviously the Hall of Fame this year. If you think this year lacked headline names, wait till you see next year. But yeah, there's guys out there I think that totally deserve it, and we'll get those guys on the ballot soon. There was also like a period of time where closers were really dominant. I think we're getting into that, like what you're saying. And I don't know if like Major League Baseball now has that same kind of situation where they have as many, like it feels like a dominant closer isn't really the norm anymore as much as it was back in the day of Trevor Hoffman's, Mariano Rivera's,
early 2000s.
those guys.
Sure. It'll be interesting to see if that falls off. You're right. Like in the next 20 years, are there going to be any closers? Because largely there aren't big time closers like that are consistent year in and year out. Like maybe the golden age of closers, if you will, in like the early 2000s and like mid 1990s and whatnot. Is there any closer off the dome that you could think of that you think would be have a chance, a Hall of Fame case
like
in the future?
Now?
Yeah, like a modern closer.
I mean, again, it depends on how their career shakes out. I think an Emmanuel Clase or some of these guys right now that are fairly dominant could still be that. It just, I feel like it doesn't have the same longevity.
Maybe a Josh Hader.
Maybe a Josh Hader.
Do you think he has the chops? I mean, he feels like the guy I'm looking at here that maybe had the longest career at that level thus far. You also have a Kenley Jansen. I don't think he's good enough. Craig Kimbrell's been around for a long time, but I don't think he's good enough. Maybe Edwin Diaz. I don't know, but yeah, I feel like the closer's going to fall off a little bit.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's like CC Sabathia. He was a very good pitcher during a stretch where there weren't that many star pitchers anymore. Like it kind of moved out of that era of Randy Johnson and the Greg Maddux and those guys, and then you kind of had a little bit of a drought, and guys like Sabathia were the dominant pitchers over that stretch. And outside of that, again, they helped get us to when we started to see more stars kind of as starting dominant pitchers. Same thing with closers right now. We could be going through a little bit of a stretch where we don't see that same, the same dominance. However, guys could be making a name for themselves right now. Justin Martinez, keep an eye out for.
Yeah, that's right. That's the one, Derek. You got it right there on the money. J-Mart, baby.
J-Mart. Of course, we'll have more on next year's Hall of Fame class and why we can't have nice things, as well as, of course, a send-off to one of our favorite broadcasters of all time. We will be right back after this break. You're watching the PHNX Diamondback Show. Well, great flower is hard to find these days, but one company that's doing it well is Colt Cannabis. And luckily, our friends at Colt Cannabis have been dropping absolute fire here at our PHNX studios.
You know who needs some Colt Cannabis, Derek?
Who?
These Dodgers fans in the chat.
Yeah.
Man, these guys are nut jobs, dude.
They're not a real chill guy.
Smoke some Colt Cannabis.
Yeah, for sure. And
kick your feet up.
Includes the True Leaf exclusive Magic Marker strain, which you can get right here in the Valley, which they've been asking for, and now she's back. Don't miss out. Thursday deal days from our friends at Colt Cannabis at your local True Leaf. 2 Colt jars for just $70, $35 a jar. And of course, we love Colt Cannabis. We love True Leaf. Get over to trueleaf.com and find your local dispensary and get these Colt jars before they run out. And be sure to check out the brand new True Leaf location in Maricopa that opened earlier this month. Get to trueleaf.com, find your local shop or place an order, and tell them the mayor of PHNX sent you. Also, check out, of course, Branded Bills. You can elevate your brand with Branded Bills, the perfect headwear and apparel company. I think you said it earlier on the AZ Wildcat show, but man, Branded Bills treats us so lovely around here.
They do.
I'm a huge fan, and my stock of Branded Bills hats is growing for sure. They have partnerships with ASU, U of A as part of their campus collection. They got some amazing Suns hats as well, and they are a local company from right here in Mesa, Arizona. If you are looking to make some gear for your brand that stands apart from the crowd, Branded Bills has you covered with the best custom headwear. Start your order, and their dedicated team will help you create the exact custom apparel you need. Head to brandedbills.com and use code PHNX for 20% off your first order.
Yeah, the main guy that needs one is this guy looks like a huge Dodgers fan, Mark Solera. Am I saying that right?
I mean,
this guy is, he's losing his mind in the chat here.
It's pronounced bread. is what it's pronounced.
He's
Last time I checked, it's just bread.
This guy must be like the king of Dodgers fans.
He bleeds blue.
Yeah,
he bleeds
man.
blue. He bleeds blue. Anyway, speaking of bleeding blue, we know that all of these Dodgers players, according to these fans, will all be in the Hall of Fame, but that's a while from now. Right now, we have to deal with next year's Hall of Fame class. And what the hell is this? We gave you a little preview earlier, but Kevin, if you don't mind,
we're looking at Ryan Braun, Sin-Soo Choo, Edwin Encarnacion, Gio Gonzalez, Alex Gordon, Cole Hamels. Matt Kemp.
Matt Kemp sprayed me in the face with champagne one time. No, this isn't a desirable list. Like, I'm not very excited about this. And again, this is one of those things that, like, baseball doesn't have a set number of guys that have to go in each year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Do any of the guys from this list make it into the Hall of Fame next year? I mean, I would love to hear from you guys. Like, I mean, that Elise said it, the weakest Hall of Fame class ever. Yeah, probably. I mean, probably. I don't know.
I mean, I didn't even name the back end of this list, but listen to this, Derek. Howie Kendrick, Nick Markakis, Daniel Murphy, Hunter Pence, Rick Porcello, Neil Walker. I mean, dude, I
hate to laugh at people's Major League Baseball careers. I really do. I'm not meaning or intending to do so, but when the biggest name on that list is Ryan Braun, who we know
by far.
And I mean,
and Cole Hamel.
You're going to Cole Hamel, but you're going to tell me that you're going to exclude guys like Barry Bonds and Clemens, and you're going to vote in Ryan Braun? Not bloody likely.
I mean, they are going to do that with David Ortiz. Everyone loves David Ortiz. Yeah. He's gotten popped multiple times. Oh, look at him. He's a Hall of Famer, even though he never played a defensive position and has been popped multiple times. Barry Bonds, the best player we've ever seen play this sport. He does no business in the Hall of Fame, right? It's ridiculous the way that they pick and choose based off of who they like and who they don't. But getting back to this list, Eric, I mean, it's just, it's vile. Gio Gonzalez, fourth name on this list. I don't know. It's just it's got to be like the biggest coincidence in the world. But man, is this bad? And it spells good news for a couple guys, right? Like, you look at the Carlos Beltrans of the world, who received 70% of the vote this year. He needs 75%. Welcome to the Hall, Carlos Beltran.
Yeah,
you are a Hall
of Famer.
Andrew Jones, 66%. Last year on the ballot next year, I believe.
How did Chase Utley do?
Chase Utley probably will make it as well. Chase Utley, 39%. I think that will go way up in this third season because just the names he's competing against.
Yeah.
Andy Pettit has a good shot as well. Like, these, I don't know if they'll all get in. I'm kind of Chase Utley, like, I think he probably deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I just really don't like the guy.
Yeah.
Because he plays for two teams that I absolutely despise. Hey, I don't know if you knew this. My name's Damon Farrell. I actually hate the Dodgers. But
if you're new here, let me introduce you.
Also hate the Phillies. And he, of course, played for both those teams and broke Ruben Tejada's leg on the Dodgers because that's what Dodgers players do. They're scumbags. But yeah, I mean, Chase Utley, I think he'll get in as well. But definitely Carlos Beltran and Andrew Jones, I think, are getting in next year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an interesting field for sure. And
I agree with Elise. Andrew Jones should already be in because
probably
if we're ranking it, if we care about defense and are valuing, potentially, a top 3 important defensive position being center field, and you have 10 gold gloves like Andrew Jones.
Yeah.
How are you not in the Hall of Fame?
Yeah.
It's not as if his offensive stats are bad. He has 434 career bombs and 10 gold gloves. Like, that's a Hall of Famer in my eyes.
Yeah, he absolutely is. Well, one guy who we know is a Hall of Famer is the great Bob Uecker, who we lost in the past week. And I just have to say, like, it's amazing how a person like this, who was a huge part of baseball, but like not a player, can have an impact on you as a person. I said it on Twitter, but I truly feel like I don't know if I would be as big of a baseball fan without Bob Uecker in my life. Like, Bob Uecker's role in Major League and Bob Uecker just being, I don't know if you guys remember, but he was everywhere in the 80s. He was doing commercials. He was on like Hollywood Squares and stuff like that. Like all of those celebrity, like, he was just a great ambassador for the game. He was so funny. He was so ridiculous. But he was so sincere when it came to his love of baseball. And we lost one of the greats in Bob Uecker passing away. So I just wanted to take a moment, since that occurred over the last week, to address that and give my love to one of the guys that made me love this game.
Yeah, Rest in Paradise, King. Just a bit outside is one of the best movie lines in the history of cinema.
I mean, just in general, the way that he
Just a bit
portrayed
outside.
the way he portrayed the anguish of a broadcaster, right? Like,
Yeah.
those guys are just supposed to be up there impartial and not really caring for the team, and he's drunk in his underwear, calling the game. He was an incredible person. We got some super chats that I didn't get to. I apologize to you guys for sure. Devin Pattinson says, "Are we going back to everyday pods at season start?" At season start, we're going to be going back to 3 pods a week. So we won't be having them every day, but we will be having them for you as often as possible.
It'll ramp up.
And it'll ramp up. We'll get you there. And we'll also have some post-game shows as well. So we hope that it's enough. I'm best in small doses anyway. Michael Rokicki said, "I just want to know where the Dodgers are finding innings for these people." And again, that's a great point. I think the Dodgers definitely have the same good problem as the Diamondbacks right now, where it's an overabundance of staffing. I'm sure that they have plans in place for how to handle that, but yeah, that's.
I mean, they also had a ton of injuries last year. You can't count on a Tyler Glasnow. You can't count on him at all. When was the last time Tyler Glasnow pitched 200 innings in a season? Has he ever done that?
I don't think so. But I think you're right. I think really after what they went through last year, even though that they were able to achieve the ultimate goal, they came very close to things
never pitched 150
going sideways.
He's never gotten 150 innings, Tyler Glasnow. 200 is a big number, so I apologize for that. But 150 was that barometer. Never reached that. And then you have guys like Yamamoto and Roki Sasaki who, frankly, they have small frames. I don't, and that does factor in pitching in baseball in particular. Like, if you have a small frame, you're probably a little bit more predisposed to getting injured. We don't wish injuries on anybody. I think I'm not saying that. It's something to monitor moving forward.
It's the reason why they're loading up. Honestly, at the end of the day, when we talk about how frustrating this is, none of this is on the Dodgers, because the Dodgers are trying to secure their place as a dynasty in baseball.
Yep.
Someone said it earlier. It's very difficult to do that in baseball, especially with the randomness of the postseason and how one single injury can impact your season substantially. Look at what happened with the Diamondbacks last season and Ketel Marte getting injured by one Garrett Stubbs. I just want to rile him up further.
That guy needs to go to the Dodgers.
You mean
so we can just kind of culminate just all of the nasty bad people.
Do the Dodgers
on one
have
team.
a mascot? What's their mascot?
That is a good point. They don't have a. I don't think they do have a mascot. Something to chew on.
Just
something to chew on.
Just
Garrett
something
Stubbs
for him
looks
to think
really
about.
good in a pair of suspenders.
He does. He's very wacky. He's very wacky when it comes
so
to
wacky.
Being, all right. Well, again, the Diamondbacks have
and Snell as well. The Snell Snell doesn't pitch. He pitches 5 innings a baseball game.
Yeah.
4 innings a baseball game.
Right. Well, and I mean, the thing is that if you load up on enough arms, you can figure out a way to give everybody the rest they need. Right. And I mean, since you're almost just hoping that 5 guys make it to the end of the season and are healthy, and with the staff they have, that looks very likely. So
our Dodgers fan, Mark Slayer, is telling us that they do have a mascot.
It's an elf.
Yeah. I'm looking at him right now. Wow, look at this freak there.
Oh my God. Yes. That it's already Garrett Stubbs.
Get Garrett Stubbs in a Dodgers jersey. It's the same thing.
Yeah. Well, love you guys so much. We appreciate you guys so much for stopping by. We will be back next Wednesday with another show. And then once we hit pitchers and catchers reporting, we'll be here 3 days a week. So we appreciate you so much for stopping by. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at cap_caveman with a K. This maniac next to me is at Damon Dog. That's DAWG.
I'm a very level-headed.
We are all Damon's dogs. Bark, bark. The man behind the Mac is the one and only large, intimate Kevin Thomas. Of course, make sure to follow him at Kevo Post. Our show is at PHNX_DBacks. But as always, all roads lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We appreciate you guys stopping by. All of you, even the Dodgers fans that just came here to call us mid and question why I put their team's name in the headline for this episode. Even we appreciate you.
I real quick about that. I don't know if Dodgers fans realize this. The Diamondbacks actually play in the same division as the Dodgers.
What?
So
that's crazy.
What they do in the offseason is actually kind of relevant to
So
what
it's,
the Diamondbacks
he's
are
not
doing.
wrong.
It's just, I
not
don't know.
wrong.
I mean, I feel like I didn't think we needed to explain
I didn't
that.
make that
but
connection when we were talking about the Dodgers
You're
so
welcome.
much, but you're right.
You're welcome.
Absolutely right.
Maybe Mark, now
Mark,
that, he'll calm down a little bit now that we explained that.
And insane. Make sure if you're a Dodgers fan to follow Mark Solera on all social media as well. He's a fellow Dodger fan. But of course, until next time, we love you guys so much for stopping by. We appreciate you so much. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it's a lot more fun when you remember that the Diamondbacks actually do play in the same division as the Dodgers.
We all silly like the mayor.